Let's take you to news that's unfolding now with Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa currently giving an update on the state of the electricity grid in Hatfield. Let's listen in.
Then we think that we might be in a serious problem. And serious problem in this instance means that we might have to initiate load shedding. And depending on the amount of megawatts above the threshold of 13,000, we might have to initiate particular levels of load shedding. So we shared that to the country, but we also said the following when we announced the summer plan. We said that we are confident that we are going into this winter with a system that is relatively stronger compared to what was the situation in 2023, and also we're expecting a number of units to come into play during the winter period. We did make reference to the fact that we now have in our AMA Kusile unit number 6, and we also indicated that we do expect that during the winter period we will have the benefit of Medupi unit number 4. And all of those things have come into fruition, and that has made it possible for us to say to the country that we have not registered load shedding. And of course, we are anticipating that going into the remaining of the winter and then transitioning into summer, we really don't expect any major surprises in relation to the performance of the grid. Of course, this is a dynamic system. These are rotating units. There could be challenges here and there, and I'll share with you how we're able to address those challenges as and when they appear, because the grid is designed in such a manner that we can call on what we call the peaking plants to help us to sustain the performance of the grid without relying on load shedding, to ensure that we protect the South African economy. So really that's a function of the peakers. They are meant to, if you like, is a card we have when we are in major challenges, then we are able to play that card so that we are able to keep the lights on. And I'm happy to also indicate that our modeling was, of course, we had made the point that if the losses are 13,000 and below, we should not have load shedding. And I must say that they were doing substantially better than that. Substantially better than that, because we are beginning to see that the system is stable, is resilient, is becoming more and more reliable as we move forward. I mean, just to give you a sense that the unplanned outages of the generation units, they average about 10,884 megawatts over the past 7 days. And we have seen even going below 10,000 megawatts, breaching the 9,000 megawatts point. So that's important, because we did say if it goes above 13,000 megawatts of losses, we might have to initiate load shedding. We're substantially lower than that. And I really want to congratulate Dan and the rest of the team, the 42,000 plus men and women at Eskom, for being able to keep their shoulder to the wheel, transfixed on the resolution of what is essentially an existential challenge that continues to face the country, but we are more than confident that we are getting out of the woods. What is this, the EAF? The average EAF, when we aggregate all of the units put together, the EAF for the period the 1st of April to the 8th of August was sitting at 60.14%. And of course, this is a major progress that we are making. And if you look at what the performance was, if we were to go back 2023, when we initiated these interventions, we're substantially lower than this amount. So I think it's important that there's a greater level of appreciation. We are coming from the lows of about 49%, and thanks to the men and women at Eskom, we are making that tremendous progress. But when we take it closer, remember I'm averaging it since the beginning of the financial year, the 1st of April to the 8th of August. What has been the performance in the recent past? So recent past, really, I'm talking about the past 14 days or so. We say that the EAF is, in fact, continuing to give us, if you like, spectacular results. That at some point we even breached the 70% mark in relation to performance of EAF. This is significant, is a psychological mark. Remember that the shareholder, as part of the shareholder compact, so this is an agreement between government represented by the Minister of Electricity and Energy, that is myself, the agreement we enter with the ESCOM board. We have said that for the current financial year, we want to get the EAF to about 70%. And we are beginning to see these green shoots. Green shoots in this instance, the team has illustrated that it's possible for us to achieve that 70% EAF. And then we have breached it in that period. What is the average month to date? What is it that we have performed over this period? We are sitting at 65.38%. So I think it's important that we have this appreciation. We are moving in the right direction. We had made the promise to the country that we are going to experience short-term pain. You remember when we stood before the country experiencing bout of load shedding, we said we know what we are doing. The team is focused on ensuring that there's maintenance on these units that have been very problematic, complicit in giving us load shedding. They require time. And the most of the country very patient with us. They believed in us, and we're happy to say that we're delivering against the promise that we had given to you. And in fact, in some instances, we are delivering more than what we had promised. And then the other point I want to raise is how have we used the peakers? So this is when we ban diesel to ensure that we are able to support the grid. The load factor on the diesel reached about 5.99% this week, which is greater than the same period last year. And in rand value terms, we spent over 5 billion rands. So I really want to put this into context because this is what is in the general public. We use the peakers when we are experiencing difficulty from the rest of the fleet to support or meet the expectation of the demand that is placed on the grid. So the whole fleet of Eskom is designed that you have, if you like, substitutes. When you have difficulty, there's a player, if I were to use the metaphor of football, there's a player that is injured, you still want to have 11 players on the field. So we call on that substitute to come and support the team. And this is what we've been doing. Yes, it is not a secret that we experienced significant challenges at the beginning of the financial year. April, we relied more and more on the diesel to be able to support us. And this diesel was able to support us because it's meant to support us during those periods of difficulty. Of course, the budget for the diesel is about current financial year, I think it's about 12 billion or so. We've spent about 5 billion of that. Then the next question you'll ask, but it's at the beginning of the financial year, you have spent close to over 40% of your annual allocation. It is because it is during winter when the intensity of the demand reaches the peak, and that's when we are likely going to experience challenges if some units fail, because we don't have the headroom for us to be able to absorb those failures of the units. What do? We then call on our ACE card, which is the peakers to come and help us. So they're designed to do that. Just to give you a context, for the period of 1 April to 31 August in 2023, just that period, we used about 14.8 billion rands. And I'm saying to you now that for now we used 5.8 billion rands. And it's also true that last year during this period, we spent 3.6 billion rand because the system, the units that were meant to returned on time last year. It's something that we fixed, and we have gone back to the performance that we are expecting. So the point I'm making to the general public is the following. When we ban diesel, we are meant to ban it because the system is under strain. And I'm further saying to the whole country that the system has recovered. You can see the EAF. And in fact, there are periods in the week where we have to put the machines in cold reserve. Cold reserve means we are generating more than what the demand is, and to protect the grid, we must pull back some of the machines. We are in that situation. It's a better situation to be in. when you are generating more than what the demand is. What that says is that we are now created the sufficient space and headroom for the economy to grow on the back of this performance. And I really want to congratulate Mr. Marokane and the team for the exceptional work that we are doing. We are marching and we are going to get out of the woods. How have we got here? It should not be lost on us that we are coming from lows of the EAF sitting at about 49% of performance. And I just said to you that the average for the past week, 65.85%. And in fact, we had days where we reached about 70%. A remarkable improvement. But this is not a stroke of luck. It's because of the meticulous, calculated, and deliberate orchestration of the strategy that we have set in place. So what did we do? We made sure that we are able to set up enabling structures to support this recovery. So first there must be a plan in place, and then you put the structures to support that plan. The Energy Action Plan, as announced by the President, had 5 outcomes. Outcome number 1 was to say fix Eskom. So in responding to that outcome number 1, Eskom then introduced a generation recovery plan. So the point I'm making is that there is value, the utility of investing in a plan that meets the expectations of what our objectives are, and then you are able to resource that plan to ensure that we are able to achieve the kind of result. And then we said, for us to get to where we want to, although we're in the midst of load shedding, there were stations that were performing well. And we said, as a minimum, protect the performance of these stations. Because if they were to deteriorate and experience the kind of difficulties that are experienced by other stations, the situation will be worse. So ensure that you maintain performance at those stations. What are those stations? Medupi, Letabo, and Matimba. So those are our flagship stations from an EAF point of view. They are the ones that did the heavy lifting. When everyone around them, that is the stations, were finding great levels of difficulty, were choking from a performance point of view, they carried the country, they carried the nation. And then we said, for us to get out of this situation, which are these stations that are complicit in the most disproportionate fashion to load shedding? So these are the ones that accounted for 70% of the losses that we experience. So these are the ones that plunged us into the situation of load shedding. And then we prioritize them. We say Tutuka, Duva, Majuba, Matla, Kendal, Anod, and Grill. We need to ensure that we get them right. And I really want to say thank you to Mr. Ngumalo, who is the head of generation, of course, led by the board, by the group CE. We invested in that. And then we got the financial support from the South African taxpayer to say we are investing. I'm making the deliberate point that is the South African taxpayer through the fiscus that is, of course, led the National Treasury Minister Kodongwan, and then gave us the kind of support that is required. And what is the reward we want to give to the country is to ensure that the lights are on one, is to ensure that Eskom gets back to profitability, because we owe the country that. The third one is to make sure that this electricity is affordable. But the affordability is a question. Eskom is a big part of that, but as a ministry, we're going to address that. Because, yes, indeed, we don't have load shedding, but there are many people in many parts of the country that are experiencing load reduction. So that's a downstream isolated capacity constraint, such that the infrastructure at the level of distribution and reticulation is not sufficient to provide for the demand that is placed on that infrastructure. Like I said to the country, we're at the final stages of how we are going to resolve load reduction. And remember, we have a template on how we address load shedding. We know that part of that template is to make sure that there's a plan that is financed and resourced, and that's why I said to the country, give me that time, we'll come back, we understand the agency. And in fact, we're just putting the final touches, even by yesterday, to ensure that we are coming back to the country. Now we are addressing the new frontier, load reduction. in the same manner that we have been keeping the country abreast in how we are resolving load shedding. I'll come back to load reduction. We'll remain accountable, working with municipalities and other players going forward. And then we're able to execute Kubek unit number 1 outage to ensure the extension of license, and that's the work that the team has done. On all of those priority areas in terms of our plan, we have scored above 80%. So it's green, 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 and that's why the lights are on. But our point was not to end at addressing load shedding. It's to ensure that going into the future, the country is not plunged into darkness. And so what are some of the things that we are doing? Is to ensure that there's a step up. Remember I said we moved from 49% of EAF. We want to now stabilize at the EAF of 65%. And I just told you that in the past 2 weeks or so, we're averaging there. We want to keep it that before we do the next step move. What is it that will keep us at 65%? We are going to continue to execute the Kubek unit number 1. We are going to ensure that we sustain the performance of this well-performing power station. In that new category of performance now is Kusile, and thanks to the leadership of Kusile is here. He was able to retain unit number 1, 2, and 3. We have kept to the promise we have given to the country and the Minister of Environment. Now Kusile is out of that list of units that were in ICU, it is performing. So we need to ensure that now we must address the skills gap. We can't rely on outside parties to come and help us to perform what is in fact the minimum function that is expected of us. The core function of Eskom is to keep these machines running. So you need the skills that are necessary to be able to support that enterprise of ensuring that we are able to keep the machines running. So there's a reinvestment in the skills, our own skills internally, take them up a different notch, and also accepting that the configuration of the energy mix is changing. There's more and more renewables that are coming on stream. Eskom is going to participate in new generation capacity on the renewables. We'll come and share that with you. Eskom is not a spectator. Eskom is not just going to the NTCSA, just buying and buying. Eskom is going to participate because the rules are clear on new generation, who must participate. There is nothing in the amendment that stops Mr. Marukane and Eskom from participating, and we want Eskom to participate. And that's why those skills are very important. We must address outage sleeps. I must say to the country, this is one area where we are not doing well. Outage sleeps means the following: that we take the machine out, we have planned to take it out, and then we say, I'm taking it out for a duration of a month, I'm going to return it after a month. So if I take it out today, 13th of August, I promise that I'll return it by the 13th of September. The expectation is that because we have planned it in advance, the spare parts must be available. The skills that are required to remove the old parts and install the spare parts are available. Everything is in place. What we have seen is that we are not keeping to that promise. If come 13th of September, the machine doesn't come back, and we have calculated that that machine will come back when those megawatts don't come into place. It places the system under strain, and then we must spend the diesel. And that's why it's important that we are going to ensure that we address that. So that's what we have been doing to get to this 65%. But our objective is not 65%. Our objective is to be 70% and above. What will it take for us to be there? We said we must return Medupi unit number 4. Medupi unit number 4 is back. Of course, it's not in commercial operation. It's a technical issue. Of course, it's back. They do the testing. They'll take it out, return it, so that it must pass all the tests. Once it's passed all the tests, it moves from one division, it goes into commercial operation. So we must get it into commercial operation. Although we benefit from the megawatt, but technically we want to get it into commercial operation, including Kusile unit number 5, the synchronization of Kusile unit number 6. We continue to focus on the skills. There will not be a point where we say we have sufficient skills. We'll continue to improve, keeping up with technology going into the future. And then the long-term extension of life of Kusile Kubek unit. So Kubek unit number 1, we're now working on unit number 2. And once we get those in place, and Mr. Marokane and the team work on new generation capacity, because we know that by 2030, there's some megawatts that must come out as part of reducing the emissions. We must replace those megawatts. So it's important that the ESCOM must move with speed to address those. So I want to make the point. Our ambition is not 65%. Our ambition is 70% and above. So that's the point. And in so doing, we're going to oil the machinery of the South African economy, make sure that the smelters, the furnaces, they get to be restarted, people are into jobs, increase capacity utilization, reliability of supply, as we resolve the issues of the cost of electricity, and then the South African economy will be back on its feet. Here's just an illustration. You can see the trend line, 2023, the losses with regards to the megawatts that they were not in operation, were out as a result of machines failing. We peaked at about 18,000 megawatts. And today, as I speak to you, we're averaging about 10,800 megawatts. So that's exceptional performance. What that means is that Mr. Marokane and the team have gotten back 7,000 megawatts. The situation of today compared to 2023 was 7,000 megawatts to the good, and thanks to Mr. Marokane. And that's why when I make the point all the time, we are within touching distance of resolving load shedding. I'll come back. I'm sure the rest of the country wants to hear me to say load shedding is fully behind us. I can tell you us very, very close to that. We'll be the first ones to share that with you. You can see the numbers with regards to the EAF are going up, and we are confident of maintaining those numbers. So I did make the point about we have retained Kusile 1, 2, 3 in terms of us meeting the emissions parameters, Kubek unit number 1, the extension of life, and then the other station, you remember I said there were stations that were complicit, that they delivered us into load shedding. One of those exceptional performers from an improvement point of view is Tutuka. So we've gotten back unit 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, an additional 1,500 megawatts. That's exceptional. So now we take them, that station from an ICU, it's in a general ward, now it will walk on its own, and then it starts running. When it starts running, the lights will just be on and on and on. But the point is that when they are on, the lights must be affordable. That's the next question that is confronting us. And you know that in the immediate future, extension of Kubek unit number 2, we really want nuclear to perform the function of base load. It's clean, it's reliable, it's efficient from an operational efficiency point of view. We know that it's one of the cheapest sources of electricity when it's operational. And of course, that's the movement that we're making. So I want to say to the rest of the country, we're in a good space. We're moving in the right direction. We made the promise that we are going to address this situation. We have made the promise that we are confident of our technical ability to resolve what many thought was an intractable challenge. We are within that touching distance. So we are saying that the next phase that we are addressing, load reduction and the cost of electricity. And as I conclude, I want to say that we'll continue with these initiatives that got us here. So what we have done is to design a template for the country for ailing SOEs that are finding it difficult to come out of a difficult situation. We have designed a template in the electricity space. That template can be exported to other parts of the SOEs. Like I said, we'll reduce the number of trips because those are the ones that makes us rely more and more on burning diesel. Once we resolve the number of trips, we'll be fine. And that has to do with the investment we are making on the skills, the investment we are making on our planning regime, the investment we are making on execution of planned outages. And that's the skills now that Mr. Marokane and the team are working on. And I'm confident that they are going to do it right. So we're going to work much closer with the original equipment manufacturers because they know the performance of these machines. They know the parameters within which these machines must perform at, and that's why we're bringing them closer to be at the table when we execute this outage. We must address the issues of contract management and also assurance. The issues of technology and artificial intelligence must be embedded in the work that we are doing. So there must be some dynamic engineering exercise, computational skills that are going to help us to imagine the kind of generation that we'll have and what must be the configuration of the type of demand we'll have and what must be the configuration of generation. And we are going to use the latest tools. And that's why Mr. Marokane and the team are investing in that. And then we're going to execute on strategic projects. I did say that Quebec Unit Number 2, important, the reductions of the emissions. It's a quest that we have set for ourselves. It's not primarily about the commitments we made to international bodies. We are not resolving the issues of emissions because we want to please the world. We are doing that because it's right to do so. We must protect the lives and the livelihoods of people within the immediate proximity of the footprint of the power station. We've got an obligation to play our role in ensuring that contributing to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Not because of the kind of glory we want on the international arena, but as South Africans, we think that's the right way to go without keeping the lights off. The technologies there, Mr. Marokane will execute against that. And then there must be investment in people and people and people. That's our strategic resource. There is no resource much greater than the people. And we are reconfiguring the mindset. Their projection and outlook must be such that there's an appreciation for them to understand that Eskom is a key pillar of the South African economy. Of course, they are in a bubble, in a power station, focus on instrumentation, focus on the rest of plant, but they must have a bigger picture of what Eskom represents. And when we go to visit the power station, that's why what I get to convey myself and Mr. Marokane, the role and place of Eskom in South Africa recovery, its economy, in getting people into jobs, because we are complicit in contributing to the unemployment lines, because the small businesses in the townships could not operate because the lights were off. They didn't have the capital to invest in uninterrupted power supply, generators and the like. Even those who got generators, diesel very expensive. So we owe it to the country to keep the lights on. They must be affordable, and of course it must be reliable. And I'm confident that we are on our way to getting there. So I want to say to the rest of the country that we are on a good betting pitch, to use the metaphor of cricket. So we want to average 70% as a better. So that's an extraordinary performance. Those who follow cricket will know that a better that they average 70%, having played more than 50 test matches, that's at a different level. We want to be in that. We want to be permanently in the Champions League, just to use the metaphor of football. Very few teams in the country, but we want to be there. We want to be in that league. When we are in that league, the country performs. When we're in that league, the economy grows. And of course, like I said to those who are watching, I'm coming back on load reduction. Those who are watching, I'm coming back on the issues of affordability. We are delivering on this. We are confident we'll deliver on the rest, because we don't doubt our technical ability to resolve this challenge. Thank you very much.